Today we're exploring this place. The Top Gear test track at Dunsfold Aerodrome has been seen by over 1 billion people across the world. It's been a place of wins, spins and bins. But who came up with this now legendary layout? Today I'm chatting with Gavin Kershaw, Lotus chassis whisperer in chief and the man originally called upon by one Andy Wilman to develop a test track that would test the mettle of some of the world's greatest cars and the hundreds of celebrities navigating its corners. So Gavin, can you talk me through how you got the job of designing the Top Gear track, now a famous track, in the first place, and when was that?
I think it's got to be 2001, 2000. So yeah, pretty unexpected. I think Andy Wilman had rung Lotus to see if there was anyone who knew anything about tracks, and Hethel had just changed its shape then. So Alistair Florence, our long-term PI guy, said, yeah, give Gavin a call. So get Andy Wilman here.
Yeah.
I want to do a test track in Dunsfold near Guildford. We're going to bring Top Gear back live, and at the moment got a guy called Perry who's been going round and round, and all he's done is made it a super fast figure of 8. Come and help us, and it was a Saturday morning. Yeah,
I didn't know that. So because I started at points during 2002, so I was never aware they were just going around a figure of 8 with no track.
Yeah, basically I met Andy and Jeremy here. Brought an Elise down because they said, look, can you just drive around, it's yours for a couple of hours. And we're really concerned that the idea is, in Andy's true words, we want to get an old shitter, get really, really famous people and just let them do a lap of it as fast as they can. It needs to last about 1 minute 30 for TV, but we're struggling because it's quite open corners and this little car's just going to be flat out everywhere and it's not going to be particularly safe.
Yeah.
Can you come, spend a couple of hours out there? We're going to the pub, came back 2 hours later and we designed the track.
So that's 24 years ago, which is hard to believe. And I've done quite a few laps around here since then. I mean, I don't know how many you did back in the day, but did you ever think when you designed this, it would become, let's essentially say, one of the most famous tracks in the world?
I think the cool thing was I've probably only done 50, 60 laps around here, mainly on the lock stops and stuff like that, smoking tyres and things, And I suppose it was interesting to see, watching the show. Wow.
BBC sniper, we're okay. They're terrible shots.
Just what we had in our mind that day, like the Hammerhead, Chicago, follow through, things like this. They didn't even have a name on that Saturday morning. And I can remember saying, like the Hammerhead is like, Jeremy, we need to get the car slowed down, maximum understeer, then flick it the other way.
Yeah.
And those conversations were ongoing with people like Tom Cruise, yourself, and, seeing F1 drivers eke out the last 10th round here. I was always keen to see on myself in the evening.
Love it. All right, when you look back, because you now watched this as much as I have probably, is there anything you would do differently? Looking back at it now, any changes?
The layout of the place doesn't allow it, to be honest. It's strange that if you start to put slaloms in down straights, it never really worked. And I suppose what I never envisaged was the breadth of the cars, watching Schumacher go around here in an FXX or whatever it was, John O'Lacey in RT125 to, Koenigsegg, stuff like that. I think it lended itself quite well to, from a shopping car down to, an F1 car and everything in between, and challenged all of those cars as well.
I totally agree, because actually what I like most is that you kept it simple. So even just looking down here, like that first corner, you call this a straight. Actually, the straight's not straight. There's a kink to the right. And as you arrive at turn 1, there's actually a variety of lines you can take there, which is always the debate with the Formula 1 drivers, because they would often take a very traditional wide line to try and get a good exit. And I've always been a fan of trying to cheat. If you can get in early and still get out and carry the extra speed and cut the distance, you're faster on a watch, depending on the car, because some cars just won't have it. But there's but it's quite a commitment corner actually.
It's really
when you land up there, it is. It's really fast. And if you make a mistake, there's no walls here, but I did find one once with the Koenigsegg. That wall is no longer here, but it's really, it's really exciting. And things like I remember the Bugatti Veyron Supersport, which is just so powerful off the line.
Yeah,
I can't remember what it got at, something crazy like 160 miles an hour, just like that.
Yeah.
So I remember it left these really dark. Whenever I hit the brake pedal, it was like a giant was there with a crayon set and just drew these gigantic 2 black lines that were down in the braking area. Not because it locked up; it had ABS and everything, but it just laid the rubber down.
Yeah, and I think it's true to say, that you see in a lot of F1 commentary about track limits, things like this. This is a bit like Hethel. The track limit is the grass, and you don't want to be near that stuff. So
because it will rip the car apart. Yeah, these little drop-offs,
drain covers, all that, things like that. So,
I suppose the one corner you might think was innocuous when you were designing it is the the final corners.
Yeah.
Because when you looked at that, did you ever think, yeah, this is actually quite complex because you're coming in at high speed and you have to gradually brake. You have to get the car to rotate at high speed and slow down all the way into the apex. It's almost rally style.
Yeah, when we were thinking about it, it was literally, you know, the pressure when you got a predictive lap on your dash and you're up +2 in qualifying, you know. It was that, you know, you're a corner from home nearly, and it's like, don't make it too complicated for the people who are going to do it. Just make sure they're going to have to be really precise, carry the speed, because they're already going to mess it up themselves anyway, because they're going to overdrive it. So if you put anything too technical in there, they're going to end up having a lot of problems. And also you wanted a bit of speed because, you know, Andy said, you know, this is where they're going to be sitting. They want the car to be bouncing and stuff like that. And also, you know, the run for cover behind the tyres quite a few times. So,
well, on that, I've got a bone to pick with you. So let's go look at that corner, right? I'm going to have this out. This section I've always found interesting because it's covered with avgas.
Yeah.
And there's something else in this surface that is just much more slippery. I would say it's got like 65% of the grip of the runway.
Yeah. It's not.
Did you know that when you were designing this? Did you bother to check?
It was a glorious sunny Saturday in an
rain.
Elise, you know, so perfect balance already. So no, it was something, you know, if you think about it now, it's the same as the myths of Donington and things like this, isn't it?
Yeah.
A wet day, it is going to be slippery, so.
And I don't suppose they were throwing budget around to resurface.
It was strange, you know, Top Gear hadn't actually started then. It was still, you know, in conception in effect. And it was, the big thing about getting permission to use the runway was that you couldn't change the runway. You couldn't put any permanent barriers down.
Yeah.
I think there was actually a rule for the first few years. I don't know if it was the same at the end is, if they had an emergency landing, you had to be able to clear the main runway within so many minutes. So the tyre walls, you know, became bigger and things like this. But that, you know, that first time we could paint a few lines at best and a couple of tyre walls, and that was it.
But no, it's nothing permanent.
No.
But that said, there's a bit of infill that has gone on over the years. So, like, you can see that seam here.
Yeah.
Because it's ever so slightly started to crack up here. But this corner it's where the money is. This is the one where if you can be committed and get the car to really go in almost out of control, you can carry a lot of speed. But the part that's been controversial is these curbstones.
Yeah.
Because that's been repaired over time. To some extent, it's actually made the track quicker.
Quicker and quicker, yeah.
From there through to there, and that exit piece, because we always used to drop a wheel off, which is quite exciting. And after as the years went on, the trough got bigger.
To get back onto the tarmac,
It would look great in the summer because you get this big puff of dust and it looked quite cool. But actually, after a while, it would be quite a big moment. And if you're in a Zonda or something like that, you don't really want to scuff the wheel over.
Yeah.
So they infilled it with that concrete after I left, and that is when Barrichello got hold of the Liana. And claims to have beaten my time, but I pointed out different track.
Yeah, because you know, this is, you can see easily, it's, you know, there's 2-3 tenths through here alone, isn't there? Just being able to run that concrete.
Barrichello, hope you heard that. So you can take off that T-shirt that said you beat the Stig because you didn't. This bit though, I do love it because this, when you get it right and the car sort of swivels, firstly it's blind.
Yeah.
Because there's a bit of camber in the track, and it's enough that you can't see the corner until you're basically in it. And in the slower cars, the front wheel drive especially, and in the Liana, you had to barely brake and then use, as the car was rotating, the scrub of the tyre to use that as the brake.
Yeah, just sort of send it and let it scrub itself. Yeah.
And accelerate as it was going sideways into this. So it was a proper front wheel driving style, which you would know about because you're in a Lotus all the time.
Yeah, and we were used to at Hethel, you know, that when you start to walk around here slowly, you see the old bits of landing light and drain covers. There's quite a lot of engineering work just dotted in the grass. So.
I'm amazed. I think in the whole time we were here, I did 8 years here. I think we only took out, I never touched them. We only took out 2 landing lights.
Right.
But they were quite expensive. I think that was part of how they did it. The markup was quite strong.
Yeah, no, it's, you know, and also it's one of those corners, isn't it? It's something quick. You've already had quite an accelerating through tyre wall.
Yeah.
And then any corner like this, you're thinking about it. And it's that moment, it's like hitting a tennis ball inning, isn't it? If you've got too long to think about it, you generally hit it wrong. Yeah,
it's true. But the last corner is a weird one. Because it's, is it second or is it third?
Yeah.
And it's really hard to get it right with whichever car you're in.
I think that one, we always assumed that anyone committed there, they're going to have a camera crew in front of them. It's literally they're not even driving through that bit, are they? They're looking and they're just nailing it, you know. So it was a little bit of safety first, but to make it any tighter, to actually bring it in to make it a 90 degree would have sort of really spoilt the last bit of the lap, I think, for anybody. So if you're committed through here, you gained and gained through that last bit. So what corner did you prefer the most? I don't know.
That's a great question. I enjoyed the last corner was fun to watch.
Yeah.
For me, it's the follow through. It's such a committed corner. Lots of good memories up there, and it's because it's so fast. I mean, so when Schumacher came here, there was the two of us walking around in a white suit, which is quite strange. And well, he was walking around with his off because he's quite cool. He's Schumacher. But yeah, he went out. I went straight. That was the corner I chose to go watch him in the FXX. So I led him round in a Jag, and I was kind of paying attention to where he was, and I accidentally dropped a wheel off and started sprayed this dirt at Schumacher in his new car. And I felt like a real numpty, but he was reflexes and straight around it. But I went to watch the follow through, and he box turned it in to the fast right, you know, total commitment.
Yeah.
Had the car rotating at sort of 120, then just hammer down. It was a pretty raucous lap. It was great to watch.
Well, that was what because I was trying to explain to Jeremy and Andy that day, you know, it's like, well, what's this going to be like? And it's like, well, you're going to be coming up here. And he's like, what, you're going to put a corner in here? It's like, no, you're going to go flat through here probably in a lot of stuff. And he's like, what sort of speed? It's like, probably north of 100, 120. And that was when he went, if you go off here, you'll follow through, you know. And that was like, okay,
and I did.
That one's follow through. And
okay, so that's where that came. All right, let's talk about the names then. So Gambon earned his name because of Michael Gambon firing it off. Last corner, obviously. Follow through, we now know. Chicago, what's that about?
No idea. I think it's a Jeremy one and his love of music and things like this. I think it was always.
He went to the musical and that was that?
Probably. Because it was always the radio and what was being played on the radio, isn't it? While the lap was being done and things like this. For our big one, as I was trying to explain to him, because we were just looking at this black tarmac and a couple of lines in it. And I sort of said, look, if you imagine a hammerhead, that's what the shape is. You're going to have to go in, left, right, and then a little straight and then right again. I said, it's a hammerhead. So he went, that'll do.
That'll do.
That's a hammerhead then.
Interesting. Hammerhead's quite cool because first it's hard to see, and when it rains, it's a nightmare because the sun sits on it, and then after it's rained, you cannot see the white, it's very hard to see the white lines, again, so you're right in it, and you have to brake super, super late. But actually, the real part of the challenge is the coming out, because it's quite bumpy.
Yeah.
Then there's a couple of different lines there.
Yeah, I think, you know, in something fast, you know, it's the next corner where you got to dab the brakes to go. But yeah, for us again, it was to try and leverage, you know, when they were explaining it's going to be lots of cars tested. We're going to have a leaderboard of cars as well as people. So it was trying to give cars, you know, like an Elise, a fair game at a lap time versus a TVR at the time that was just going to be able to blitz the straights. So no, I think, you know, it worked for what it was working.
I love it. I think it works brilliantly. I suppose the only bit, they've done it now anyway, but perhaps beefing this up might have given it some longevity. But like you say, the show hadn't even started. No one expected it to go on for, 12, 13 years it ran. And actually, I think it stood the test of time incredibly well. And Chicago is just brilliant. I mean, that was our drifting corner.
Yeah.
Occasionally, I go out to the McLaren hut and go the wrong way round. So when we had the Ferrari 458 and that came here, I couldn't believe what it could do. It was, you know, completely linear V8 engine, and we were just playing with it. And they decided they were going to go full bore on the video, so they went completely wild with it. It was amazing. You could just start shifting. You throw it in, and you could drift it in third and fourth gear. So we had these incredible, really high speed shots. Just tons of good memories. Just love it.
Yeah, you know, I can remember, you know, chasing you around here with, you know, camera cars and stuff, and you could actually drift side by side comfortably, isn't it? And the surface was pretty rough on tyres, wasn't it? You know, if you prolonged drifts would sort of burn for a decent set of tyres. But I think, you know, for us it was safe enough, dramatic enough, because cars have got to be travelling quickly to look quick, haven't they? They're either sideways in a lot of smoke, but actually that 80 to 100 miles per hour, cars look quite slow all the time. So something where there's some roll in it and things like this. Then having the ability to sort of nearly VMAX most cars, if you miss out this bit, was quite another feature of this place.
It was. Let's go look at our favourite corner. Let's go check out the follow through.
Okay.
So follow through, and you have quite a long time to think about it, because you come out of Chicago. I always remember coming out there in the Koenigsegg, right, really with juggling, because it was sliding around a lot, and you were running out of gears all the time. It would chomp through second like this. just being like trying to juggle going sideways one-handed and then get the gear in the right spot. And then you've got this short run and to really weigh up what happens here. And it was quite critical, the line through this, especially the cars where they would slide at high speed. Not all cars do, but a lot that were nervous. You had to really sort of weigh up and you had to really use every inch of track on the side to sort of carry the speed through. But it was that little run, it would sort of weigh on you on the way up here.
And also, if you rewind those years, the stability control systems didn't really exist. You had to turn them off if you wanted to be quick, typically. They were manual, they weren't just paddles, really quick DCT. So there was a lot more to do before you got to that, right, I'm going to turn, isn't it, point. So, and there's quite a lot of scenery in the background, isn't it, to take your eye away, sheds and tyre walls and buildings and things like this going on. So, no, there was
one more tyre wall just there.
Yeah, there was about a little.
Yeah. So,
but the shed survived.
I'm glad I missed the shed. I cranked it into here. So Christian Koenigsegg had brought the car here. They'd been doing like speed runs, straight line speed runs. So it was like super low downforce. So it was quite all hands on deck, in everywhere, because it had loads of power. Yeah. And in the high speed stuff, it was still all going on. Got slightly sideways, and it slightly overwhelmed the power steering, and then that was it. Exit stage left. But I remember seeing that stuff. Thought, please don't hit that. But there was this like tiny little this sort of structured wall, which got obliterated, and the tyre got stuck in the mouth of the car, which looked really stupid. And we were trying to pull it out before he came up, because he rushed up in the ambulance, and I thought that was I was checking everyone was all right, but really it was to check the car.
Is the car okay?
And he wasn't happy, but I don't blame him. But anyway, we had a good laugh about it eventually, and he stuck the wing on it, and it was a lot quicker. But I thought I was getting fired then. I really did. Because I'd done bits in 2002, but I started full-time 2003. Yeah. And that was around 05. Yeah. So I've been here 2 years. And that was the biggest screw-up I'd done by far. Before that, I hadn't put a ding on anything. Yeah. And then I've taken a hypercar and done that to it. So I chatted to Christian, apologised profusely, and just made my way back to the porter cabin and sort of walked up the steps. And I was like, this is it. Just put your head on the block and hope for the best. And Wilman was in there with Jeremy. And I just said, I am so sorry, I can't take it back. Yeah. And Clarkson just goes, I'm surprised you held on to it that long. It's an animal. They were really cool about it, so that was that. But it was good. We got to reward them with another run. So they came back with, they changed everything.
That's
and it was much quicker, and we got P1 with it.
Yeah, and I think that's what the track was about, wasn't it? It's like this fast section here, and you sort of think we should have changed something, but then I think this half of the track was for fast cars, wasn't it? The other stuff was technical, and you could make your time up in in a typical sports car in effect, but you could be hypercar fast through here. Yeah. So
I'll tell you what's changed is this bit. Now that loads of people have gone over it, so I used to avoid this section because it was freshly painted. Yeah. And I maybe put the inside wheels over it because it was unloaded, but generally when I've tried it, it would ghost across the paint. Yeah. And it wasn't nice because you had to try and carry as much speed through this, especially in the aero car, to get the aero to push the wing down. Yeah. You could commit then to the power and you try and carry the speed all the time to get more downforce, carry more speed. So this was to be avoided, but now you can properly whack the car across this section because it's worn off. Yes. And then you line up that part. And I don't know if you noticed this when you designed it, but you obviously got a tyre wall that limits your speed to some extent. But there's a section where this bit meets the runway. Yeah. And there's a grate. Yeah. Is it? So depending on the car, it's like you can cut that. Okay. And it makes quite a big difference. And I've noticed it on some of the sims, the games. They don't always put it in properly, but that made a massive difference. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So in cars that were quite soft that would take it was quick. And in some of the highest performance cars, it could work, but with the wrong car, it would ding the toe links. It would damage the suspension. Right. Yeah, and when you look here, isn't it? The car at 120 miles per hour here, for 1.5 G, to then flick that to 1.5 stably the next time. You're taking aero loading off, isn't it? Yeah. You're putting yaw in the car, so... A Lotus would be right across there, wouldn't it? Yeah. Bang, no problem. Yeah. Take the curbs. Yeah, take the curbs. That's the one, isn't it? It's that stiffness versus, compliance type feeling, the way the tyre builds up. So I love watching that slow-mo footage of the F1 cars when they're hammering curbs, and you watch that, and you must think the engineers look at that and think, how does our car take it? And they've designed it to do it. And you see this shake and the the violence going into the car is amazing.
Oh, yeah, when you start looking at the engineering of the car, you put a damper on a damper dyno, isn't it? And it's traveling at nearly 4 meters per second, and you can barely see it, and you think that's what it's impacting when it's hitting a curb, and that load going through.
So have you had the Avaya around here yet?
No, we haven't brought the Avaya here, you know, we should do, you know.
Let's go. I drove it at Silverstone,
Yep.
which was epic.
Yep, you have the development colour, yeah.
I could not believe the straight line acceleration of that. It was mind-boggling. And also, I couldn't stop chuckling, overtaking other people.
Yep.
This is some me time, this is Ben time. Because at any speed, the torque's there. So it's like a Veyron plus. Yeah. So it's got insane speed, but it would be really interesting to see what it could do here. Because the straights, it would just dominate the straights.
Oh, you know, at Hethel, it touches 200 miles per hour twice. So it's going to be at VMAX, probably 350 kilometers per hour, 2, if not 3 times here, which is ridiculous, you know. And I think you said it at Silverstone is because you're not changing gear, it's just that effortless acceleration. You do have to watch your brake points fairly early on, isn't it? But no, you know, I've played up Goodwood Hill in it, and you know, and then at Silverstone and places like Nardo where you can just sit past the tourist entrance at the Nürburgring. It's just on the speed limit to 350 k's.
I think it would do quite spectacular stuff here because the format is a standing start. So I noticed. So I got within a tenth of the Valkyrie record in the Praga, Yima, from a standing start because the Valkyrie's got hybrid, so it launches about half a second quicker.
Yep.
So effectively, the Praga is quicker in the corners than the Valkyrie, but just can't get that punch. But that Avaya off the line would be outrageous, and you know all these little short squirts like out of Chicago, out of Hammerhead,
traction, 4-wheel drive, you know, big tyres, things like this, and also it's got 1,600 plus kilos of downforce, so you've got enough downforce to get it. But it's got heave dampers, so it's quite compliant as well. So you can run rubbish, you know, curbs and things like this with it as well. It'll soak it all up.
What are we saying then, March?
Yeah, let's get the sun out.
Track warms up a little bit.
Let's get the Trofeos nice and warm, and then we'll go from there.
Yes. All right. If you had to change one thing at the track, what would you do? What would your concept be?
Probably the entrance to Chicago rather than the exit.
So the white line?
Just the white line was, for me, it could have probably, had you been able to put some, you know, on the day we didn't even know if we could put white lines on, possibly a slightly gentler exit in.
Okay.
Would have made it quite a challenge corner on the exit, where actually, as it was, the sort of challenge to it was the entry.
Yes. And
the exit was just floor it and get a bit of dirt and things like that. And I think if we'd have made it slightly faster going in, you wouldn't have been able to use the hypercar's full performance right in the middle of the corner. And it's that middle of the corner stuff which sorts out the men from the boys driver-wise, but also the cars being sorted.
Interesting.
Because you want to be over the tyre limit. If you're under the tyre limit, then the car can cope with it. And if you've got an apex where you're right at the tyre's limit, a bit like the old first corner at Silverstone, as soon as you know you can run wide, everyone's fast through that corner.
Yeah.
If there was a guardrail up against it, then you'd have to sort your car out.
That's interesting. So I find that the hardest corner on the track.
Right.
It's the most technical.
Yep.
And there's a million ways you can do it. The kink is great because it means the car's working before you put on the brake. But the choices of brake slightly early, but get off the brake and crank it round and try and rotate it to get an exit, or do you brake a bit later and try and miss the first bit of apex and do a V-shaped line to come out?
Yeah.
And different cars, different courses. Well, I was playing with it on the sim with the Liana.
Right.
Because I thought, if I do a million laps in the sim, maybe and it was that corner, I just kept trying different stuff. And I noticed it really varies, and there are different lines for different cars.
Yeah, because I think when you're attacking it, you forget that you've got the longer straight afterwards, isn't it? So exit is really bridle. So what you sort of nick going in is going to punish it going out, sort of thing. So I think it was that.
Interesting. If I had to change one, it would be Hammerhead.
Yeah.
So it's cool.
It's frustrating though, I think.
It's quite, because I would make that bigger. So I would make it I would make the chicane harder and go further to the left before it comes back.
Yeah, I think the theory of that is that at that point you were going to then just benefit really fast cars with wide tyres, not anything like Caterham or anything like with agility. You know, and at least used to yaw around there. You know, you could nearly hook third into it and just drift it or the exit. So it was that sort of balance where, you know, having the leaderboard of cars is how do we let the minnows have a chunk out of us, you know, because this bit's not, you know, they're going to be absolutely.
So you
Harry
really thought
Flatters.
about this?
Yeah, it was the leaderboard thing and the star and the reasonably priced car. When I was setting the track out, it was more about that than being a racing driver or anything like that, thinking this is going to be pleasurable, this is going to be super fast. It was more about someone who's confident, a sports person versus an actor, something like that.
Yeah.
They're going to have to be taught around here. They're going to have to never have sat in a car before, potentially on this circuit, to then not embarrass themselves. And you wanted them, you didn't want someone to be 3 seconds faster than somebody else, isn't it? So it was that, and then the car side.
Did you ever imagine that Tom Cruise, Cameron Diaz, Jeff Goldblum, Mark Wahlberg, the list goes on, would be here desperate to run a lap in a car?
Yeah, I think that was the cool thing. I think it was the Stig stuff obviously was unexpected as well. And then that moment where Jeremy used to hang out and slowly write the time down, and these mega stars in effect sitting there like wanting him to just, not the embarrassment and, not just being that top 10, isn't it, nearly? Yes. And I suppose it was the wet lap versus the dry lap, wasn't it? But even that became a good wet lap was a, really respectable time.
It was. I've got to show you something that Tom Cruise did.
Right,
we'll have to go back to where the finish line.
Right.
The finish line is the start line, but it's worth a look. So this last corner got some serious hammer, and so it got the extra treatment with this lovely concrete, which started to break up, as you can see. But it was towards the end of my time. But it was, so the last guests were Tom Cruise and Cameron Diaz. And it was full on panic mode at BBC and production side about these big names coming.
Yeah.
They had 3 airstreams and all these people came and everything. It was amazing. And he was amazing. He was humble. He was getting his photo taken with anybody that wanted one, and he was giving time to everybody. He was great. But he was like laser focused on doing the time, doing the fastest time in the Kia. And so I've been teaching him. He was incredible to work with, because you're teaching someone on track. There's about 1 in 10 people really listen and take it in and do it. And Tom's one of those, like absolutely laser focused. If you say, use that piece of tarmac, he'd be on it.
Next lap, hit it. Yeah.
Anything. He was going quicker. And then the production lot were getting more and more nervous. And to the end, literally I got taps on the shoulders, like, he's going fast enough, so stop telling him stuff. But I thought, it actually was my last day on the show. I thought, no, we're going to give him maximum send. So I sort of looked at it, what he was doing, and I could see where he was doing really good in the last, penultimate corner. He had about right. I said, look, Tom, I think there's a bit more in the last corner, but you just need to shave a bit more curb, pointing at this. And perhaps I should have been more specific. And I was kind of hoping he'd bring the inside wheels over the curb.
Yeah.
Anyway, we watched him. He rattled through there. It was a really good lap. And he put all 4 wheels this side.
Yeah.
So 2 wheels on the grass and the 2 that hit this bit. Anyway, that piece there caught on the rim and it tipped it over.
Yeah.
And it properly looked like it was going over. For that moment, I thought, everybody behind me now will blame me.
Yeah.
But he tipped it up. It sort of stopped. You could hear him still gassing it. And then it crunched down and crossed the line, and he completely nonplussed by the whole thing. And now after I was asking, and I think it was on his interview, and he was like, it was like I was flying a kite. I was just feathering it across. And like most people would hit the brakes and have to go and sit in a corner for a while. But that was his fastest lap. It was amazing to watch. But it's a special track. I actually think that you designed it perfectly. I honestly wouldn't change a thing. The track has evolved by itself over time, and not too much. I think it's kept its character. No,
I think it's quite a proud moment. Even my kids now, they're 15 and 18.
Yeah.
And they still drop it into the odd conversation. I think, it's like, Dad done the Top Gear track, because it's covered decades of people, hasn't it, of interest. So.
All right, so we'll be back next year with something fast, and we'll have at it.
That'd be good, really good.
Love it. Hope you guys enjoyed that. More Top Gear stories to come. If you liked it, smash the like and subscribe button, and we'll be back here next year in something very, very fast, maybe an Avaya Plus.